So a lot of people are talking about the new Star Wars movie, which I love, and the new Batman Superman movie. So those are two pretty big genres that have taken over the world. So today I thought I would talk about superheroes and who is like my favorite superhero and what the deal is with what superheroes are all about. So, um, when did superheroes begin in comics? From what I've read from what I've heard from a video I saw on YouTube, superheroes began in the early 30s with Superman. This is the real first superhero people felt like it was a part of the story, and a lot of people consider Superman the greatest superhero of all time. For me, Superman is not the greatest hero of all time. For me, my favorite superhero has has to be Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my favorite because he is the type of person that before he became Spider-Man, he was just like me or you. He was an average day person and he didn't have any special power or special money. Well, he did have a special power. He got bit by the spider and spider senses, but he was a human being, and that's he was from Earth, so that was the thing I liked about him. What purpose do they serve in society? I think as a superhero, Spider-Man serves the purpose of looking out for the everyday man. I mean, he's even called your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so he's kind of like if you ever need help around the corner, um, he's right there. So I think that's something that is an interesting aspect in superheroes and Spider-Man himself. What do we look for in superheroes? What do we look to Why do we look to superheroes to save us? I think we look to superheroes to save us because I think we look for a moral compass or some type of moral guidance saying that's how I want to be or that's what I want to act like. Because if we just follow our own lives, I think life would be pretty dull. And I think we have superheroes because it gives us a feeling of enjoyment. And that's why people have superheroes and that's why people have idols. You know, if you idolize someone, it gives you something to look forward to. So, what does your superhero fight against? Spider-Man basically fights against the vigilantes. So anyone who's robbing banks and doing all those types of crimes, he's fighting them. But he's also fighting the super villains like the Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, and Doctor Octopus. I mean, if you've seen the movies, you understand what Spider-Man is. His uncle died, and that's ever since his uncle died, he wanted to fight. He wanted to fight the villains to kind of make a comeback to them. So that is what Uncle Ben and Spider-Man is all about. People argue that in order to have superheroes, you must have crime and villains. So do superheroes create villains or do the villains create superheroes? Who is your favorite villain? I don't think people like it just said superheroes must have crime and villains to do superhero things. I don't think so. I think if you just do a moral valiant effort at something, then you're considered a superhero. Um, I mean, look, I think we can all really relate to our true superheroes, which are our men in forces over in wars who are fighting for us. They're superheroes in real life. Also, I'd have to say the superheroes in New York on 9/11, the people that went up to that building and tried to find people, those are our superheroes. Those people are everyday people who try to put them efforts. And I think you do need a villain because it's something to fight for, but it could be your villain could be as big as a terrorist and as small as a cancer cell. You know, it depends on how you look at it. Um, I think you do need villains to make the superheroes, and you do need heroes to make the villain, but both could stand without. I think you can really make an argument that, like, I don't know who's going to combat this villain, but he's a villain. or I don't know how this person's what he's really fighting against, but I feel like he's a hero in my world. So, and who's your favorite villain? My favorite villain has to be the Joker. I think he is very mind manipulative, and I think he is a perfect example actually for sociology. He always has a conflict with something, and not just with people. I mean, mentally, I think when you watch The Dark Knight, it seems like someone whose mind is not in the right mindset. Um, so, how does the role of superheroes in comics and movies changed? Um, I think it's become more realistic. I think I understand the question. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Uh, how does the role of superheroes in comics and movies change? Oh, I think in the sense of a superhero in comics, in movies, at first they're considered the oddball or the outcast because people don't know what really is going on with them. But as people see that superhero develop, then they can really relate to like a labeling theory where they can say like at first they label the superhero outcast, but then once the superhero saves them, then they can label the hero heroic. So I think it's through the person's viewpoint. Um, Spider-Man's different because I think he came from moral backgrounds. I mean, he started off like an everyday person, and he just from getting that spider bite, he knew that he could use his power for good. With great power comes great responsibility. Quote, Uncle Ben. Um, what role does your character take on in society as the hero as well as their alter ego? Well, Spider-Man takes on the role of a hero because he saves anyone. I mean, he'll save the little girl when a tower's falling over her, or he will he will help a bank from being robbed. But um, Peter Parker is not the opposite, but Peter Parker's kind of like somewhat takes the same feeling but in an opposite direction. He kind of is smart, and so he uses his wit um, against other people. And I think he feels a little bit of a grudge towards society because he's always been like the outcast. He had Harry as a friend, but he's been bullied and he was always like the geek. So I think that was like the reason why Spider-Man and Peter Parker are so perfect is because it's kind of like the yin and yang. You couldn't have one without the other. So, what effects do comics and superheroes have on society? How does this role explain the positive deviance? Um, I think that superheroes are a huge role in society. I mean, I think we all have that one friend who's an obsessed fan of one or the other, one superhero or another. I have a friend that's obsessed with Batman, and I think he sees Batman as the good and all good. Um, like the role of positive deviance is doing something that is an outcast, doing something that's a little different, but it's in the end for a good cause. I think like Batman and Bruce Wayne, people didn't know what Batman was at first in the beginning of the stories, but then as he went on, he he fought for Gotham and he got rid of the Joker and Bane and Scarecrow. And I've not seen the Batman versus Superman, so I can't tell you anything about that. But I think they are needed in all societies. Without superheroes, I think we would have a lot of people who are disturbed and just not mentally motivated to do anything. So that's my opinion. Um, yes, they are needed in societies. So I'm going to go over these questions. Superheroes began in comics 30s. Favorite superhero, Spider-Man. Best day role. So I'm going to just do a quick recap. When did superheroes begin in the comic books? The 1930s, and it was with Superman. DC wanted to have something people can reunite under. My favorite superhero was Spider-Man. He was Peter Parker. He got bitten by a spider, became Spider-Man, and fought against the crime throughout the city. The purpose is that they serve to society is that they basically give us something to look forward to and look up to. We look up to superheroes to save us because I think we need a moral compass. My favorite hero fights against, I think, morals and what's right and wrong. People argue that superheroes, you need the villain to create the superhero, but you need the superhero to create the villain. I think you need the villain you need the hero to define the villain much more than you need the villain to define the hero. That's my opinion. How does the role of superheroes in comics changed? I think basically they've changed throughout the story because you've seen them growing up, or you've seen them introduced to the world, and people think that they're an outcast or an oddball. But then once they get to the reality of it, once the people get to the reality of who the superhero is, they finally comes to terms with what he is doing for them. How is your superhero different? Because he was my superhero was different because he was an everyday kid. He wasn't rich. He wasn't an alien. He didn't own any companies. The only company in relation to Spider-Man was Oscorp, which was his friend Harry. His father owned Oscorp, and his father became the Green Goblin. So that was the only connection to money. But Peter Parker never really had anything. What effects do they have on society? Superheroes have on society really is the idea that looking up to something, looking forward to something. I think Peter Parker is kind of the sense of no matter how low you think you are, there's always something, like a purpose that you are here. So there's always that silver lining. And that's what Peter Parker is all about. Positive deviance is I'm sorry, with Peter Parker, because he is basically the outsider to what the norm is. And so he's been the outsider on the nerd side, and now is the outsider on the superhero side. So he was on both sides of the spectrum. And last, again, just heroes are needed in society. Thank you. Have a good day.